Hi there, my name is James Atkin, also known as Epitomised on PokerStars, and I thought I'd take this opportunity to go through my final table in the Sunday Supersonic on the 20th of May 2012. It seemed like a good spot to do something for my blog because all the hole cards were exposed in a replay that I recorded of the final table. It's not often you get to see everybody's hole cards in online poker. Certainly it's the first time I've played and I've been able to see that. And also it's a hyper turbo tournament, so the final table goes by really fast. It's only about 20 minutes long. So it seemed like a good idea to just sort of do a little bit of content and post something up on my blog. And, also to brag a little bit, I suppose. It's not really... That wasn't really the intention, but, read into it what you will. So just a little bit of a background. I think there's about 1,300 entrants, maybe a few more in this tournament. I actually fought my way back from 400 chips from a 3k starting stack. So just from that knowledge alone, you know that I got incredibly lucky to make the final table. I got very lucky in various spots. I did crack aces at one point, and just before the final table I got very lucky as well. I binked the river in a spot where I had sort of 35% equity pre-flop, and got there to give me this pretty reasonable stack. I go in second in chips, although I think everyone's sort of vaguely even, given the shallow structure here. We're at 1530 the blinds, but with a very big ante, it does play very shallow, as you would expect in a hyper turbo tournament. The table's just been assigned. Two people got dealt out here, Granta and JPA on the left. JPA is the only person I really had marked here as being good. So I'm pretty much unaware of anybody else on the final table. So no huge reads, just from what I'd played over the last few hands with anybody that was on my table. So it folds around to us here with ace-8 suited, and I think this is certainly a reasonable spot to jam. There's an argument for raise calling there, but people can fold better hands if you shove, and there's 100,000 chips in the middle, first hand of a big MTT, so I'm happy to just jam that and take that down. And then I get dealt ace-7 suited, 2 under the gun, and I have a number of options here. I think I could just open and maybe call a couple of people if they go all in. I could fold. That wouldn't be out of this world to fold here, certainly. It's a marginal sort of situation. But sort of wanting to take hold of the final table, 100,000 chips in the middle, and looking at the stacks, everyone's in a really difficult situation here. They can't call light because of the ICM implications. I think there's so much money on the line. JPA aside, I don't believe anyone had any huge results to speak of, so if this is huge money for me, which it certainly is, then it must be for everybody else as well, as far as I'm aware. And I put ace-queen in a very difficult situation there. Let's just go back to ace-queen. He time banks a little bit, understandably. He's fourth in chips here, and he's maybe not thinking I'm shoving quite as wide as ace-7 suited. And ace-queen here, I have to be shoving wider than ace-7 suited for it to be a call. So that's definitely a really difficult decision with ace-queen, and can understand him sort of going with the fold there. I will sort of try and skip through it at times so that we're not waiting around for people's decisions. In this hand, ace-10 jams as it should, and it's a much different decision here for ace-queen, who rejams. but unfortunately for him, that 10 pings the river, which is pretty brutal on a final table as big as this. When you look at the payouts, 4k for 9th, 51k for first. I make sort of a conservative fold there with my stack under the gun with king queen. I mean, it's not that conservative, I guess. Managed to avoid the ace queen this time, which I don't think would be folding to an open. So got results orientated. That one worked out well. And speaking of my run good up to the final table, it clearly didn't stop there as I get dealt kings in the big blind, which MBN obviously. And fortunately for me, it folds around to the small blind here, and after 10-5's tanked, he jams, which is a good jam. I don't think I'm calling wide enough for that not to be a jam, and I just get the best board ever and bink it without a sweat, so that's very lucky for me. So now I am a fairly big chip leader, which puts me in a very nice position. And the next hand, the guy that lost with ace-queen, who's waited a couple of hands to get it in, he gets dealt ace-4 and calls it off, which certainly seems like the right thing to do. And queen-9 suited has decided to sort of mini ISO here. I'm not sure about this one, really. I'm sure he's getting the pot odds and stuff. But it seems a little bit risky with me on his left. If he has some kind of concept that I'm good, I can use my stack as leverage here. He's second in chips, I'm first, with no real danger of busting if I was to get it all in with him. Admittedly, that would suck. I don't want to get it all in with him and lose, is what I mean. But I don't know. I guess I'm lucky that I have a hand as good as King Jack that I can jam here, because basically this little mini ISO, I assume, is an absolute monster. Sort of aces, kings, or it's a marginal hand that just wants to sort of take it to showdown and is very likely to fold if I jam. I mean, I might not quite have that right, but that's, in the 10 seconds that I had at the time, that's what went through my head, I think, and so I jam on him, and he has to call really quite tight there, the ICM implications, and I'm lucky enough to bink the jack, and we've already lost 2 players, so we'll just skip past the break. First hand back, and Swordfish picks up jacks, and of course jams with his 8 big blinds. No one can really do anything else other than fold here, so that's a fairly straightforward hand. I get dealt 5-9 here, and I choose not to get funky. There could be an argument for it, but JPA is pretty shallow over there, and is the second shortest, so I don't want to take any huge risks with marginal hands or very marginal hands like that. So ace deuce makes a good shove, and again no one can call. This one I think is somewhat questionable. I have queen 9 suited. From what I had observed of Chris in the big blind, he'd been pretty tight and willing to fold a lot. And I thought that if he was capable of folding a decent amount of hands here, where he probably should just call off almost everything, realistically, I felt like maybe he can fold here. And everyone sort of needs to wait for him to bust. He's the shortest stack, apart from maybe JPA, who could take a risk or two. So I opted to jam. It's somewhat marginal, but again, sixes just have to snap fold there, and that's the effect that this jam has. And with my huge stack, it's not a huge risk either, and I'm picking up so much money in the middle every time that I win one of those. And the blinds go up the next hand, And this one's pretty straightforward. It folds around to ace king, who's got two big blinds, so they get it in. And he resucks out on the river to stay alive. And again, another fairly straightforward hand. He jams the button with ace nine. Nothing that we can do but fold. This one folds around to ace jack, who has the easiest jam in the world. Again, easy folds for us. Just to go back there slightly, king 8 here, I think is pretty clear jam, but fortunately for us, he passes up on that spot, and it allows us to make a pretty standard jam here with 5-6 suited, because these guys can't call, basically. You know, JPA's sat there about to bust, and everyone else is short as well, so it's a really good spot for us. And a7, you know, which has us, you know, pretty killed in many ways, is an absolute snap fold. Nothing he can do but fold there, and we're gradually building up a very nice stack that allows us to take, you know, a few risks. Although I can't do anything with ace 8-9 here, because JPA is in the big blind and pretty much has to call it off with any two, is what I would expect. Although it actually the eights do jam on him, and he opts to fold, which I do think is somewhat questionable, or very questionable. But he perhaps knew that he was going to pick up aces the very next hand. And we get a bit of a Hollywood hand here, so I'll slow the speed down somewhat just to play this out. Jacks bink the flop, aces bink the turn, and so again the short stack survives. Spot here with Jack 8 suited. Again, could get funky, but I have been pretty aggro, or, well, maybe not aggro, but I have been aggressive. So I don't want to be perceived as too much of a maniac. Maybe sort of have some kind of reputation for being able to fold. Just so I don't get called lighter than maybe I should. People tend to kind of get annoyed after getting shoved on repeatedly. So King Jack suited jams here, which is I'm sure a good jam, and nines in the big blind has a tough decision. I think it's pretty close with the ICM of this situation. He's sort of joint second with the guy that's shoving in chips, and he just virtually busts here if he loses. Or no, he does bust if he loses. Sorry, they're very even in stack. He does bust out in 7th for 9k if he loses. And this guy's been really tight. He actually, I don't know if you caught it, but he did fold King Queen when I was in the big blind a few hands prior to this, sort of a very similar spot. So he's been, obviously he didn't know that, he couldn't see the cards, but I don't think he's done anything else on this final table really, apart from jam 8s. So I think this is a tough spot for nines, and I think it's really close. I think you could go either way with it. He actually snap called, so I'm not sure how much he considered it, but the nines did hold, which I was pretty pleased about, because he's on my right, the other guy was on my left. I think I certainly prefer the guy on my right to get the chips there, and I still have him out chipped, so one of those spots where tens get it in against tens. And we lose another player, so we're 6-handed. And this one looks fairly straightforward. Ace 9 jams, and everyone else has to fold. Speed up slightly. So in this hand it folds to me. I think maybe Queen 10 could do something there, but again, he does have me on his left, and I did already sort of jam on him in a sucky ICM spot, so actually probably makes sense for him to err on the side of caution there, because I can put him in a world of hurt ICM-wise. It forced me with 5D suited here, and I think this is... It kind of sucks that I have such a bad hand here. I think I'm shoving super duper wide, and I really think 5D suited has to be the bottom of my range, because I do opt to jam, but I think this is completely fine, because these guys can't call. Swordfish is about to burst, and everyone's sort of so short, yet so even, and as you'll see, I mean, King Queen here... What's King Queen going to do? It has to fold. It's a good fold, so hence why I shove 5D suited. If King Queen can fold in the big blind there as it should, then it's fine to jam. We all have to. I have to fold because the big blind's committed here, and again the short stack sort of survives. And the short stacks are pretty short now, with sort of 4 big blinds and those huge antes, and another straightforward hand. As you know, you're going to get pretty straightforward hands on hyper turbo final tables. Ace 3 jams, King Queen calls, and here I got dealt Ace Queen under the gun. You'll notice that I did time bank over this, which might be a bit of a tell. I don't think it's a bad tell. Certainly, it almost if you time bank and then raise, it's some kind of strength. I chose to shove here, which some of you may question, but I do think it's the best play. It took me a while to think about, should I just min raise here? It doesn't. Everyone else is sort of insignificant here, apart from the big blind, because I think, apart from it looking a bit stronger to min raise, no one's got any fold equity against us, and probably realises that. Apart from the big blind, who does have fold equity. So it's all about the big blind's decision here, I think. His hypothetical decision, if it folds round to him and we've min raised, what does he do? Well, you know, he's not going to be messing around, I can't imagine, but we would really like him to fold certain hands that he cannot call with here, such as jacks. If he folds jacks here, I think that's great for us. We don't want to flip with our chip stack the way it is against everybody else. Also, he should fold Ace King as well. ICM wise, he has to fold Ace King. He's sort of in a Queens plus kind of spot if we jam here. I guess we never jam Aces and Kings is a slight problem. So it depends how aware he is, but I still don't think he can call it off worse than Queens. And there's a lot of good hands that we would like to fold that re-jam on us. And I don't think there are too many. Obviously, an argument for min-raising would be he jams on us with Ace-Jack, we snap, and, you know, we're a big favourite, and we basically win the tournament, sort of thing. But I think him folding strong hands is a real good reason to ship it in here. And it means that we extend our chip lead without showdown as well, which can't be terrible. And pretty straightforward this one as well. Ace Deuce calls it off. Ace 5 rejams, which is a good rejam, and we have no hand, and we're down to 5. This hand, pretty straightforward again. Ace 5 jams for sort of 2.5 big blinds. We have a really easy rejam with King Jack, and Kings in the big blind is lucky enough to pick up Kings there and calls it off, of course. And that didn't actually hurt us too much. It was only for 2.5 big blinds, so we're still in a really good position. And the Ace 9 opts to shove, which is probably the best play given I'm on his left. I can't really do anything there. I would have to fold really tight, so I definitely think that jam is is decent, and he chooses to fold deuces here because the big blind is committed. Queen 9, I think, is a fairly clear jam given the stack sizes. The guys to our left have to both fold because they want the big blind to bust. You know, if they call it off and he folds, that sucks for them really badly. And Queen 9, with great pot odds here and factors to be ahead of any random hand by a decent margin, it's a pretty clear jam. And we fade the draw and we bust him out in fourth. So just as quick as that, we're four-handed, and now everyone's kind of guaranteed big money, and we're still chip leader. Ace Queen, of course, jams there. We fold. And here I think this is a really clear jam with a hand as good as 5-8 suited. You know, he can't call it off too light here. He's still got the need to ladder up to third. So 5-8 suited, of course, blind on blind there. It's I'm sure most of you will realise that's a reasonable jam. And as if we weren't running good enough, already had kings at this final table, we get aces. Although on this occasion, I don't think there's anything we can do other than shove because of how we've been playing. I think we've actually only shoved all our hands. It's for 6 big blinds, so I think, although they have to be pretty tight here, which kind of sucks for us, we obviously want them to call it off when we've got aces, I think you can only shove. And they both fold. King Queen, sort of again a similar spot to the Ace Queen earlier. I choose to jam. Again, I think the big blind has to fold all his hands that have us beat, that we love to see fold. It's slightly different to earlier. I mean, this is much more of a jam because you don't really want to be raised calling here with King Queen, I don't think, when you can get Ace-X hands to fold. So Ace-Jack suited. Sixes fold here is somewhat interesting. I guess this guy's been tight, but I don't think sixes can really fold here. He's sort of relying on me picking up a decent hand in the big blind and having to call. I guess, what am I getting here? Yeah, I'm getting 2.5 to 1. So there is an argument for it, I guess, but most of the time my hand is going to be much weaker than the end of the gun hand, given how he's played, I think. And I'm going to be more inclined to fold, given my chip lead. I mean, it just happens to be that I got 8 deuce in this situation, and I do have to fold. I guess that doesn't happen all that often. But I think, given that those two are dueling it out one-on-one, I'd expect sixes to get that in there, really. Because if he does win this hand, he's such a clear third. A clear fourth. Anyway, we get another spot of luck here. Queen 10 makes a good shove on the button. It is a good shove. You can't be results orientated about these things. He just happens to have jammed right into my ace king. Of course, I'm never folding. And as has been the way with this final table, we don't really even get much of a sweat. We have it wrapped up on the turn. And that basically wins us the tournament. Doesn't really seem like we had to do a whole lot. But just pick up kings and shove a lot and not run into hands. I mean, obviously that's a lot of combination of things, but it did go very smoothly for me, I have to say. And from this position, I really think I'm such a huge favourite to win. I'm sure I don't win every single time, but I do win most of the time here. And I have an easy jam with ace deuce. 4-5. I don't know. It's a tough decision, isn't it? I think probably you could fold your worst hands here that aren't connected in any way, like 8 deuce, obviously, that kind of thing. I think I probably would call it off with 4-5 there, but it might be that is a reasonable fold. Maybe Sit and Go Wiz would let you fold there, but I'd probably call that off. And I was surprised, really, that the guy I had marked as the best on the table, I'm sure he was playing other tournaments at the same time, so maybe that factored into it a little bit, but I was really surprised to see him make this fold. But, you know, we all make mistakes. He might not have quite have seen that he had to shove there. That was a really clear jam, and he missed it with the 8-10 suited. But, you know, it does happen to even good players. And I guess hyperturbos are so very unique in the shallowness of some of the situations that even good players kind of don't really know what to do every time. And so we're heads up with a huge chip lead, and we're 5 big blinds deep, so certainly know what I'm doing here. And he's shown a willingness to fold there, and easy jam with 10-7. Let's just slow it down, seems we're heads up. He goes with the 5-8. I think this is somewhat of a difficult decision, given that he's folded a couple of buttons. It's really close, but I chose to go with call, probably just because of my huge chip lead. It's not like it's a huge risk, but I do think it's a close decision. And somebody, you know, might tell me that was a bad call, and I would believe them. They might also tell me it's a really standard call, and I would believe that as well. So this is really just straightforward. I'm lucky enough to have him pick up 6 deuce here when I jam 7-9 suited. I get the same deal, where I have to call pretty wide, but not that wide. Must be nice to get ace king. He should call it off with 5-6 suited there, but he doesn't. And then I believe this is the winning hand. I have to call it off with Jack 7 for 4 big blinds. And again, we hold. And that's it. And that was by far my biggest ever tournament cash, or biggest ever win. I actually only had half of myself, so it wasn't as big a win as you may think, but obviously that's even half of a bink like this is extraordinary, and I certainly gave that one a fist pump. You know, I'm fairly reserved when I'm playing. I don't let too much affect me, but definitely fist pump that one home. It was quite. I was in such a good spot, you know. I was very lucky. I got lucky to be there, and I was lucky to just have everything go my way, really, and very lucky to get that big stack. And with my knowledge of, you know, playing 180 man sit and goes, playing 18 man sit and goes, I'm very comfortable in those kind of spots, and putting people in bad ICM spots with a huge chip stack. So I certainly had a good experience to sort of dominate the final table. I'm not saying that I did what anyone else wouldn't do with my cards, with my chip stack, but it certainly put me in a good spot, and I capitalised on it, I think, and ran well, which is the main thing. So I hope that wasn't too boring for you, if you're still listening to me, which is somewhat unlikely. But I do thank you for checking it out if you did, and hopefully sometime in the future I'll be able to make another one of these videos. The likelihood is that it'll be for the 1650 shootout that gets broadcast. That might be the only other shot I have at making one of these. I don't know. I don't play them that often, is one of the reasons. But they are minefields as well, obviously. So, well, let's hope I do get to do that one day, and maybe I'll make another video. Thanks for watching, and speak to you again another time. Cheers.